50. Simon Property Group up 45 cents to 160.72. Cummins down 67 cents to 163.97. Vectron up 51 cents to 59.62. The finish line up 6 cents at 14.29. Honda off 2 cents to 27.70. Zimmer Biomet down 31 cents to 130.76. Duke Realty off 44 cents to 28.35. And Bank of America down 16 cents to 23.90. For help with your investments, call the Scalacci Group at 848-3305 or visit the Money in Stock link at WIBC.com. This has been Brian Wenstrup, financial advisor with the Scalacci Group at Merrill Lynch for 93 WIBC.
93 WIBC traffic at 12:03 and Canby looking at Heartland Road at Raceway, an accident there. And, of course, I-70 still working on getting that mess cleaned up near Greenfield eastbound lanes. Now your American Standard Cooling Weather Center forecast.
Scattered storms will be possible throughout the course of the afternoon hours. Where you do see the rain, your temperatures will be much cooler today, only in the mid-80s, whereas the further south you go, the better chance of being dry, and as a result, highs in the low 90s with heat index values near 100. Should be around 88 here in the city. I'm RTV6 meteorologist Todd Clausen.
And right now looking at 78 with storms approaching downtown Indianapolis. I'm Chris Davis on the level, on the go, on Twitter at 93 WIBC and WIBC.com. 1204, Tony
Facebook, Tony Katz Radio. The top story, let us start with John McCain. It is brain cancer. It was surgery just late last week. It was a blood clot behind the eye. That's where they found the glioblastoma. Glioblastoma has the ability to spread aggressively. It has a strong root system, which means it's able to seep into parts of the brain. They believe they got it all out. However, there will still be chemotherapy. There will still be radiation. If you listen to Senator John McCain, he'll tell you he'll be back soon. Maybe he will. That doesn't mean that the Republican Party doesn't need to look at what's possibly next. Because there has to be a question about whether or not Senator McCain is able to do the job. Be there for the votes. That's really the story. When you only have a 2-vote cushion in the Senate, and that's what the Republicans have, you have to be able to do something about that. You have to be able to make sure that all the votes are on deck and ready to go. And that's why you need to ask whether indeed John McCain is up to the task. That is not me in any way, shape, or form trying to be rude or discount the senator or his family. None of this is easy. We wish them all the best. But there is a political reality, and it isn't wrong to say so. As a matter of fact, it would be wrong not to dig in on it. But the big story, of course, is that lunch that took place just yesterday, that meeting between the Senate Republicans and President Trump. They had lunch. Oh, they had a good time. There were sandwiches. Who doesn't love a good sandwich? And there was some real honest conversation about what it is that Republicans need to do.
People are hurting. Inaction is not an option. And frankly, I don't think we should leave town unless we have a health insurance plan, unless we can give our people great health care, because we're close. We're very close.
I don't know how close they are. I don't know how close everyone thinks that they are. Are we close when it comes to the idea of repeal, or close on the idea of repeal and replace? Because if you were to ask the president, he says it has to be both. Well, on repeal, you had 4 senators who didn't even wait. They said no. Collins and Portman and Murkowski and Capito of West Virginia. That's on straight repeal. On replace itself, on the repeal and replace, you have Paul and you have Collins and you have Lee and Moran opposed. Susan Collins is opposed to everything. I guess the senator from Maine thinks Obamacare is just great and terrific and fine. And don't get me wrong, I am saying for the record, there is mass dysfunction in the Republican Party. There is mass dysfunction in the Senate, and I put that on Senator McConnell, Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader from Kentucky. Don't tell me about his leadership skills. Don't tell me about his strengths. Don't tell me about his capabilities. Don't tell me about his capacity. He had 3 strikes. He is out. The bill before July 4th, the bill that just happened, and then a straight repeal. A bill that was passed in 2015 unanimously by the Republicans in the Senate. They now can't get the votes for it. Why in the world did you bring it forward? I thought you had a plan. I thought you knew. Did you not know? Were you unaware of what was happening here? And then there's the other part, which is if you don't have the votes, if you do not have the votes in repeal, why are you trying? But that's exactly what Senator McConnell's doing. So you explain to me what his plan is. His plan, as per the reports, is to go for a vote next week. Is that still his plan? Who's voting? Who wants this vote? Why does he think it's going to happen? Now, I will say that all of that is before John McCain. It's very possible that the cancer diagnosis of John McCain will change a fair amount of how Senate Republicans move forward. You have less defections you can handle if you don't have all the hands on deck to vote. So certainly with this, you can expect things to woe up just a little bit. You can expect things to kind of hold back just a little bit. However, I would not be so clear into the idea that this vote will even happen, that they'll get to repeal. As a matter of fact, I am not convinced at all that we will even see this come up this summer. Healthcare might have to wait. And not because anybody wants to wait, but because they don't have an option but to wait. That's the top story. That's my top story. Here are some headlines.
Headlines.
So it's a win and a loss for President Trump. I guess you could say it that way. It's the Supreme Court talking about his executive order on refugees. The ban on refugees remains, no matter what Judge Derek Watson of Hawaii has said. That ban remains. However, what Derek Watson, the district court judge, has allowed by increasing what could be the family relation, expanding the family relation, that they say is okay. It was this district court judge who clearly hates President Trump, and I say is an activist judge. It's an activist court. After hearing that the Supreme Court would indeed take the case, they will listen to the case about President Trump's executive orders, therefore lifting the injunctions while they hear the case. They won't hear it, by the way, until October. This judge decided that the executive order that is still going to be heard by the Supreme Court still needs to be manipulated. He said it needs to be expanded, who you can let into the country. Well, the Supreme Court has said, somewhat. You want to say grandparents and others? All right, sure, fine, great, terrific. But refugees? Absolutely not. And there are 24,000 refugees, as reported, who have been assigned to a charity or a religious organization in the U.S. who will not be able to use that connection to get into the country. The Supreme Court also denying the administration's request to clarify its ruling last month that allowed the administration to reinstate a 90-day ban on visitors from Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, Yemen, and the 120-day ban on refugees from anywhere around the world. The justices didn't define the relationships, but they said that it can include a close relative, a job offer, admission to a college or a university. That's why Derek Watson, that district judge, wants to expand things. I don't think he should in any way. I don't think he should be allowed that maneuver in any way, shape, or form. But hey, I'm not a judge. I'm not a judge. They don't check with me on these things. And the best story out of China you will hear all day. China has banned Winnie the Pooh because there have been people in Chinese social media comparing Winnie the Pooh to President Xi Jinping. And that's just adorable. Because when you look at Winnie the Pooh, he doesn't look anything like the president of China. First of all, the president of China doesn't wear sweaters. Also, not a big fan of honey, and never once has he gotten his hand stuck in the jar and been like, what do I do now? I'm a dumb bear. Never happened. Once, okay, admittedly, once he got really high and he stuck his hand into a hot toaster. That's true. The president of China did do that. He knows where to get the good stuff. The president of China gets sick weed. Listen, that's just what I'm told. I don't know if that's true. But it looks like Winnie the Pooh, ridiculous. But, China, which everybody looks at as a model for high-speed rail and healthcare, they also won't let you compare the president to a fictional character. Gotta love those people. Those are some headlines. Here's what's been overheard around the country.
Overheard on Tony Katz Today.
In Americans, if Obamacare fails, it's not just people going to say, hey, policy doesn't just fail. That means Americans will get hurt badly, and you'll see very devastating things happen. So that's not just a cynical way that's violating his promises. That's sinister. It is, and it's evil to plot against Americans like that.
I'm Brian Baker.
You're the margarine of evil.
And that's Overheard on Tony Katz Today.
Brian Baker, thank you. There are few words in America that could make me this happy. We have an extra piece of cake. Word that would make me happy. Mr. Katz, we made this medium rare ribeye by mistake. Would you like it? Very, 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 very happy indeed. Sir, we're not allowing Lena Dunham on television anymore. That terrific. Wonderful, wonderful words. Wonderful words. But I don't think there's anything that could make me as happy as the headline from the American Mirror that reads, Maxine 2020. I'm sorry, what? Maxine? Did you say Maxine as in Maxine Waters? Maxine 2020, Waters' appearance in New Hampshire on Sunday. How is that not the greatest news in the history of mankind? Maxine Waters running for president of the United States, testing it out, not leaving it to Kamala Harris, the senator from California. She is going to take her Trump hate to New Hampshire and commentaries like this on socialism.
And guess what this liberal would be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing. Would be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
Oh, please run. Please run, Maxine. Where do I write my check? Where do I write my check to see Maxine Waters run for president of the United States? And why is this so great? It's not because Maxine Waters stands a chance. It's because what an unbelievable statement it says about the Democratic Party. Listen, I have argued for a long time that the Republican Party is the party of stupid. There is dysfunction in the Republican Party that they can't get it together on something like health care, which they've had 7.5 years to do. That they can't even figure out how to get a repeal vote with senators on board. There is dysfunction. I'm not saying no. But if the Democrats' best move is Maxine Waters, that means the Democrats are empty. They are completely and totally empty. And if you think I'm making this up, let me go to the words of Tim Ryan. Congressman Tim Ryan is a Democrat from Ohio, and Congressman Tim Ryan is, from all accounts, a good guy. And he was interviewed recently on C-SPAN, and he was admitting quite, not even sheepishly, but directly, with a touch of, oh man, that there is no leadership in the Democratic Party, and he's asked point blank if he would want it. First, listen to him on leadership.
Right now, I don't think, the average person would really identify anybody. Clearly, they use Leader Pelosi a lot in a lot of the ads that they run. But we're a Democratic group. We got a lot of different factions to it. And I would say right now there's really not any major leader of the party.
That they are leaderless is something that none of them have been willing to admit for months now. You had Nancy Pelosi saying the leader of the party was still Barack Obama. You had other times where they said, well, the leader is Tom Perez, and the leader is this one, and the leader is that one. We should be clear that the leader of the Democratic Party isn't even a Democrat. It's Bernie Sanders, the independent, which is to say a socialist, because while they may not align with their labels, they certainly align with their agenda. Socialists. The Democratic Party has become socialists. Of this, there can be no doubt. But Tim Ryan is asked, the congressman is asked, about him being a leader.
Would you like to run for leader next term?
No, not really. I don't have really any interest in doing that. I ran. I felt like somebody had to run. Didn't necessarily want to run myself. But I felt like we needed a change, obviously. But I have no desire to run again.
Because you can't win, sir. And I am not trying to disparage you, Congressman, at all. You ran because you realized that Nancy Pelosi is far too radical to be in a mainstream position, like minority leader of the House, like potentially, possibly one day, speaker again. That's why you ran. You ran because you're an actual Democrat who disagrees on policy. But the Democratic Party has left you. The Democratic Party is the Progressive Party, and they are all ideological and in line with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. That is today's Democratic Party. It should be called the Progressive Party, and socialism is the ideology. You don't believe me? Let me move you to Matthew Tully. Now, very rarely do I quote Matthew Tully of the Indy Star and say, oh, look at that. What a point he has made. But oh, look at that. What a point he has made. Matthew Tully, July 18th, 2017 is when he wrote it. A Democrat fears his party is, quote, losing its soul. And it's a story about the South Bend mayor, Pete Buttigieg. The problems that Pete Buttigieg sees in the Democratic Party, where he says, and I'm quoting, too many Democrats are looking at the failures of this administration and seem to think that criticizing the president alone will bring us back to power. But even if it does result in us winning back power, it leaves unanswered the question of what we would do with that power to address the challenges facing regular people. As Matthew Tully observes, he is absolutely correct. He is. He is absolutely correct. But and this is a fantasy world where hating the president alone, it's not criticizing, it's hating, it's despising, it's wanting dead, it's dreaming of his death, it's laughing at other people who wish his death and then act out upon it in things like videos or in photos or in theater, etc. Your problem, Mr. Mayor, is that you are a Democrat hearkening back the days of Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Maybe JFK. I'll leave it to political historians to answer that question. But today's Democratic Party has no Democrats. They are progressives, and you, sir, have been left behind. You have been left behind. You have been left behind by a party that is the Socialist Party. That is the ideology of government and only government, and certainly not the people and the wants, dreams, and hopes of the individual. You've been left behind by a party that wouldn't vote for you, either one of you, because you're too white. There is no diversity of thoughts in the Democratic Party. There is no diversity of people in the Democratic Party. All of this conversation about color, well, if you are not of color, you're not going to get to run. Take a look at who's running. Take a look at who they're talking about. It's only a matter of time before they find other progressives to replace the old dying white progressives that lead that party, the oldest, whitest people in America, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. If you got older and whiter, you would have to find a bottle of Elmer's glue in your great-grandma's basement. There's no room for you in this party. The party has left you, which begs the question, why are you still a part of it? And if you want proof, Maxine Waters is going to give a speech in New Hampshire. I've made my case. If you'd like to make yours, 239-9393. Call in anytime. I'm Tony Katz.
The Blazing.
Democrats are letting their